Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Big Sky Season 3, Episode 12. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're picking up with the situation where Paige rolls up on Sonny because she assumes, oh, Buck's the serial killer? You had to be in on it. And sadly, Sonny didn't know. But it does beg the question based on stuff that Walter says later on, is like, did she know and she just pushed it aside? It is kind of ironic. You only saw the darkness in your son, well, one of your children, and never saw the darkness about your husband. I mean, it's like, you kind of were super kind of like, bleh. And you were just kind of fine, whatever, moving on with it when he killed Mary. You didn't think much of it. She probably has seen inklings of it, as she describes it. I knew about the drinking. Had no idea about him being a serial killer, cutting out people's hearts for decades. But she definitely saw the darker side when he killed Mary. But the way he was like, oh, no, I didn't mean to. She was going to ruin everything. And the moment you walk away, he's licking up the blood. Now, granted, you never saw that part, but you get what I'm saying. That it's like, yeah, it does make you wonder, is it a thing of she saw the darkness, but she chose not to? No one would have suspected Buck of being like the bleeding heart killer. No. Well, I figured he was off the moment he's licking the blood. I'm like, yeah, he's probably like, yeah. Because everything was kind of pointing to it maybe being Walter, but it's like, no. So, nevertheless, luckily the cops showed up just in time to save, who knows how that Sonny Paige situation would have gone down. But now Paige is in the hospital, and it's like, yeah, she was up to some nefarious stuff with the $15 million that she stole and the whole shenanigans that was the fallout of this entire season. But, now it's like, yeah, Buck had all these hearts in the jar. It's like, Jenny's like, wait, what? And it's like, yeah. So they're trying to track that down. Sonny's finding out the truth about Buck. And, now that it's like, hey, Paige is alive, Walter can get let go, which he can. And, he's happy. But Sonny's thinking like, hey, this could be our opportunity. It is kind of sad. It took your entire family falling apart for you to fully give Walter your attention, which he sees that. It's like, yeah, you're the happy family you started with yourself. Yeah, you checked on me, but yes, I was always kind of like a second thought. I was the child you kind of left behind and left out in the woods. Just because it's like, yeah, I'm the dangerous one. Now Cormac wants nothing to do with you because he found out that you're a liar. You've been up to some shady stuff. Oh, plus now Cormac finds out his dad's a serial killer. So that's not an easy pill to swallow. That can definitely mess you up. Granted, luckily it didn't happen at a childhood situation, because if it was a child and found out about the dad being a serial killer, well, we'd be dealing with a Malcolm situation, referencing Malcolm from, Prodigal Son. But if you've never seen the show, great show, sadly canceled after a second season. But nevertheless, Walter has no plans of sticking around just because it's like, yeah, like how can you, for him, it's like, I have no reason to kind of stay behind. And also it's like, why stay where I'm not wanted? For so long, his mom is all he had, but now he has his freedom and he also sees his circumstances for what it is. Like I said, she only now it's like, hey, we could go away together, because it's like, yeah, you just said Cormac wants something to do with you and you found out about Buck, so you want to, hey, let's go away together. But he's like, no, goodbye, Mom. He doesn't need her anymore, sadly. It's like, I get it, you've protected me all these years, but it's time for me to kind of go off on my own, because especially now that he recognizes, like, all you ever saw was the darkness in me and you pushed me away. Did you see the darkness in Buck and accept it? He was even like, one of his last victims, Blair, is like, I told you he had something to do with it, but you refused to even listen to me. And it's like, woof. So he ends up visiting Paige, which I kept going back and forth. I'm like, I didn't know whether that was sincere or not, but the way she was like, wait, Walter, it's like, all right, you help me with the 15 million thing. I'll go to and prove Walter didn't kill me. But she was actually legitimately happy to see him. And I don't think it's just a manipulation thing. I think she legitimately is like, oh, wow, like it's a weird circumstance that brought us together, but you do care about me. And he plans on killing Buck for what he did, which I'm scared because I'm like, that situation could easily turn ugly, whereas like you go to try and kill Buck ends up killing you in the process. But he wants her to never have to be scared anymore after what Buck did. It's like, hey, I don't want you to ever have to be scared. I don't want you to have to be looking over your shoulder for the rest of your life, because that was a scary situation. But she was even like, no, you don't have to do it. She was like, wait. And I think there's a part of her that just wanted him just to kind of stay there. Like, I think she's like, you also didn't have to you didn't have to admit what you did. He's like, yeah, but if I didn't, they would have kept following you. She's like, you would have spent the rest of your life in jail. He's like, it wouldn't have been so bad. Like, I think she legitimately hasn't really had, I mean, because Luke, yeah, he might not have been the greatest dude. I mean, and as we know, he was trying to kill her at one point in time, but it's like, I think this is the first time, like, despite how weird he is, that's the thing. Walter does have a good heart. Probably doesn't always go about things the best way, but, I mean, he didn't handle the hiker, was it Mark? Didn't handle that situation well. Shouldn't have handled the Luke situation the way he did, but Paige was kind of a collaborator in that, an accomplice in that regard, so that kind of falls on both of them. So I do hope that they get to walk away from this. That's my prediction. I'm like, okay, throwing it out there, I get the feeling like when it's all said and done, maybe, just maybe, and I'm actually kind of fingers crossed hoping that Walter and Paige get to walk away from this situation. In the aftermath of this episode, which I'll talk about in a second, but I'm curious, would there be any reason to go after Paige now? It's like, well, she still has access to that money. I don't know if anyone else knows that she took the money, anyone a part of that organization, like whether anyone else knows that they do, they're going to keep coming after her forever. But, at least she'd have Walter there to help her disappear. And, they had that 15 million that could go a pretty long way. Or it could, I don't know. I could definitely see them kind of walking away happily ever after. I'd also really like Cormac and Walter to have a scene together. They've yet to have one together. I'm also a little suspicious of Cormac, just from the extent of, yes, he's found out his dad's a serial killer and that's a lot to handle, but part of me is like, because of Prodigal Son, the apple might not fall too far from the tree, but even in that situation, it's like that's very befitting and not befitting at the same time, without spoiling Prodigal Son if you haven't seen it. I'm just curious, like, which side of that lane Cormac falls on. I want to believe, like, no, he's good. He's not like his parents. But it's like, the sad thing is, those seeds kind of exist in you to some extent. Because it's like, right, Buck is your dad and Sonny's your mom. And maybe even Walter's kind of saying, like, some of his darkness. Like, he's like, maybe the bad isn't me, it's you. Like, that darkness, it's you, your own darkness. And you've just been projecting it on him, on Walter. So now Cormac and his dad. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But I think Cormac seems like he's on the up and up, not unless we end up finding out. It's either going to be Cormac who does it, or maybe it's going to be Walter in the process of doing it, but then, like, in order to stop his dad and protect his brother, maybe even Cormac's caught between, like, oh, I need to protect Cassie because she's in a situation that he has to kill his dad or something. I could see either one of them, if not both of them, kind of in both Cormac and Walter killing Buck. But like I said, I do want them to have. They're gonna have at least one scene by the end of this season. They have to, but what the circumstances are going to be like, what are those conversations going to be like? That's going to be fascinating to see. And as I guessed, because I didn't talk about it, but it's like, yeah, Buck's alive. I figured as much. I think Paige hit him like 2 or 3 times. I was like, you should have gone for another whack, should have made sure he was dead, but she was so sure he was, but it's like, no, he got up, killed the poor guy that went to help him, and like, I was like, please don't hurt the dog, which is like, that's the effed up human nature. Like, we all get like that sometimes. I'm not afraid to admit it, because some people are like, oh man, it sucks you killed that dude, but please don't kill the dog, please don't. Okay, good. Oh god. I was almost hoping, like, please don't even take the dog, leave the dog alone. Okay, cool, you left Lulu right where Lulu was. I was like, please, thank you. I was like, oh man. And he left the dog sitting on top of its dead owner's back. I was like, jeez, that's super twisted. So, Buck's out there, everyone's hunting him down, but the problem is the team's got more to worry about, because not only Emily, but Emily and Denise both got kidnapped. And at first it's like, it didn't cross my mind, jumping ahead a little bit, we find out it's Buck, but it didn't cross my mind until like this shootout and everything happened at the end. I was like, and the moment he's about to say, because I expected him to almost say something like, it wasn't until Bo grabbed him that was like, he doesn't have Emily, it's Buck, isn't it? And it's like, yeah. he was playing coy, like they were. It's like, oh, you think we had this leverage over you? I mean, they were going after Emily anyway, but I'm sure Tony was going to wait until Emily was alone, because he was outside the office, I think, at the time, but he saw someone else grab him. He's like, well, this is a golden opportunity for me, because he knew, like I said, I'm sure because Denise was about to leave anyway, so I think he was probably going to wait till she was alone, because he didn't need Denise. That would have just been extra, like he needed. It would have just been, I gotta be like mindful of two kidnappees. It's like, I need just one person, specifically Emily. So, and also, yeah, Tex following Carla, but she kind of called him out. And I'm surprised that he was just so like laissez-faire about it. Like, okay, you have a good day, ma'am, and drives away. I was like, huh. I thought, I mean, you were supposed to keep an eye on her, but I thought you would have, done a little bit more. But I'm like, right, it's a public place. I mean, it's not like you didn't already know that this family was related to Bo. So I don't know if being like, oh, I'm gonna call my ex-husband the sheriff. Like, I don't know if that was enough to really throw him off, or was he just like, yeah, this is too much of a public spectacle. So it's like, well, she was married to a sheriff, so she probably picked up the signs of like, all right, I made like 4 lefts and you were still there. I saw you in my rear view, so she knew what signs to look out for. So it wasn't so easy to kind of catch her off guard. So. And Bo's freaked out, obviously, because it's like, yeah, his little girl's in danger. And so he ends up going to Avery, which Avery had a scene earlier where Tony's people sent over a guy, but Dono handled that, which even Avery's like, wouldn't it have been easier to use a gun? He's like, yeah, but it's been a while for me, so I was a bit out of practice. Still got it. It's like, yeah, because it's like, I mean, ever since everything went down, ever since he left Ren's side last season, it's just like, yeah, he's been living the quiet life. He's got a little bit of that sharp edge, but it's not as sharp as it once was, so. But, yeah, Bo went to Avery, was like, if something happens to my little girl, I swear. But for Avery, it's like, no, I want her back, too. I love her, too. So, works alongside Avery, who's also obviously working alongside Tanya and Dono, and it's like, cool, fine. I will work alongside you guys. You won't get arrested. And Avery's like, you'll get to keep all of the money, not just some of it, all of it. Should have figured things were going to go sideways the moment Tanya's like, this is the last job. It's always like, never say that, because it's like, oh, 1 day away from retirement. This is going to be our last big job. It's like, yeah, that never ends up well. And I figured like things were going to turn out the way they did. I was actually really surprised. The one who popped out first was Tanya. When the deal went super sideways, Tanya popped off. And Dono ended up killing most of the squad. I was like, oh. Because I was scared the entire time Dono was standing there. After he, like, killed everybody, I was like, oh, man, like, Tony or something's going to pop up and shoot him. But it's like, no, it's like, oh, he got everyone. And then it turns out Dono got shot. You're like, jeez, he's like, remember when you stabbed me in the leg? He's like, me not killing you was the best decision. It was the best thing I ever did in my life. And they finally kissed, and I figured as much. I was like, because the way they were setting it up, I was like, Dono's going to die, and it's going to be before he has an opportunity to really tell her how he feels. She was kind of feeling it too, but neither one of them really acted upon it. And hopefully, I mean, they do bust in there and close enough to, like, like maybe he will be okay. Don't know about Avery, because Bo just looks at Avery and it just seems like he's dead. It's like, I mean, that's also the problem once again, like, just like Bo said, like, Avery just thought he was smarter than everyone. Like, he overplayed his hand in this regard. And it just, poor guy, like, he did something stupid. Things spiraled way out of control. I literally said early on in this season, I was like, oh, is he going to be the T-Lock of this season? And the more time it come on, it's like, oh, the more time that went by in this season, I'm like, oh, he's becoming more and more like the T-Lock. Now, I was even worried. It's like, please don't have the tragic ending like T-Lock. Super tragic ending like T-Lock. It's like, man, history has a nasty way of repeating itself in this story, huh? It's like, dang, dude, that sucks. I was like, because legitimate don't even look like let's get him medical assistance. It's just the way Bo looks at him. It's like, Bo's not going over there to check his pulse. It's like, no, it looks like he's straight up dead. I think that'd be sad that, like, when it's all said and done, like, Dono's the one that actually survives and he doesn't. That's got to be a hard pill to swallow for Carla. Which there's that part of your brain that's like, oh man, it sucks, but now that he's dead, you two can be a thing. But it's like, well, I want Bo and Jenny to be a thing, but then you're also like, yeah, but then you end up, I mean, that's a whole conversation, department relationships and stuff. That's a whole conversation. So And Bo, this is also going to trigger something in Bo because of everything in Austin. Was it Austin or was it San Antonio? Back in Texas. I keep forgetting. Because, like, those are also the two, like, places. Well, and Houston. But, like, mainly, like, when I think Texas, I mainly think San Antonio or Austin. I think Rooster Teeth has kind of got that stuck in my head now just because, like, you know. But also, like, so many. Because isn't Double Toasted? Like, aren't they in Austin as well? I know them. Obviously, like, a lot of comedians like Joe Rogan. I think Tom and Christina are in Austin too, aren't they? So, like, that's why, like, when I think Texas, I mainly think Austin, because it's become, like, such a big place. But I also, like, San Antonio is one of the first places. I was thinking for a second, I was like, why is that? It's like, I think I had an ex-girlfriend was originally from San Antonio, or born in San Antonio. Maybe that's also my other association with it. Either way, that's neither here nor there. But it's like, yeah, the situation back in Texas where he blamed himself for his partner getting killed, regardless of this being a situation of Avery's own making, it's still a thing of, damn, this sucks. Like, Avery died. Like, that's going to be hard on Carla. Regardless of his mistakes, he was trying to do the right thing. Also, it all was worthless because Tony didn't have Emily. I mean, and also, I should also note, Tex leaving when he did was like, hey, ironically enough, I made that whole point about Texas and stuff, but Tex is like, yeah, he's like, the moment he found out, wait, you kidnapped a girl? He's like, yo, that's where I draw the line. It's like, hey, criminals have standards and morals too, where it's just like, you know, because, hey, it's just, kids are innocent. Like, adults can make their own beds, but kids, nah, they're innocent. We don't drag them into this. Maybe that's also why he did handle things the way he did with Carla too, because it's just kind of like he's just kind of like yeah, I'm here to observe. Like, if I have to, sure, but maybe he wasn't too quick to pull the trigger on kidnapping Carla either. I don't know. So, I mean, luckily he left when he did, because that would have been a nasty shootout situation, so. But that sucks. And, I mean, it was already bad enough for them both to be in some bad guy's hand, but it's maybe worse being in Buck's hand, because it's like, at least some criminal you can, like, reason and make a deal with. I mean, you know, well, the only reason why Tony went back on the deal is because he never had Emily and Denise to begin with. But Buck is a long-time serial killer, which is also interesting, too, that one of the people he has is like, well, Emily screwed the pooch on a lot of stuff he was doing on him and Sonny's place. But also, Denise is the one that kind of sparked this whole bleeding hearts killing thing in the first place. So her sadly getting kidnapped by him too, like it feels some role. It feels it's all coming full circle. Plus, Emily was the one that's always very questioning a lot of stuff that was going on at the camp too. So it feels it's all coming full circle. Her getting kidnapped as well. So, and the last shot of the episode is Buck calling Sonny and asking, "Oh, are you mad at me?" And I was like, "That's interesting," because I was like, "That's the I think it's like, you mad?" or something like that, because it's the title of it might have just been, "Are you mad?" Yeah, that's the title of the episode. But yeah, really quickly, I want to circle back to something. I kept wondering, like, I have to look into it to make sure. The actor who plays Tex, I was like, why do I recognize that actor? I was like, I know he was in something where he was the father, and I was like, did he play DJ Qualls' character's dad in The New Guy? Maybe that's because he was the dad in something, and I felt like it was a comedy, and that might have been it. I was like, it wasn't like Joe Dirt or something, was it? Was it? Because if it was The New Guy, it's interesting just because of, like, because of DJ Qualls, because, well, he was also in Supernatural, which obviously Jensen Ackles was in. Because that's also on my brain, because, like, I had no idea, but Billy, who's on Double Toasted from time to time, like, he was in the movie, and they even did I have to go watch it. It's they're like one of their bad movie reviews for, and they covered that. So a lot of people in that movie we actually think about in retrospect. It's like Eddie Griffin, Eliza Dushku. I think that I didn't know her name at the time, but I believe that might be the first movie I ever saw Zooey Deschanel in. But yeah, putting all that aside, I went on a huge tangent there. So, but this is kind of the end of everything anyway. So it's kind of, I mean, at the end of this review anyway. So it's just it's the perfect place to put it, I guess. But I'm very, very interested to see where all of this ends up taking us. I actually don't know how many episodes are in this season. The show's kind of bounced around, I think, season-wise. How many episodes they have? I'll probably include it in the comments. I don't have my phone with me right now. Either way, doesn't matter. I'm very excited to see where all this goes, because we're kind of zooming in on like one of the only other threads still there, and that's Buck. Well, I say that, but there's also, that's what I was kind of bringing up earlier. It's like, oh, you know, maybe Paige and oh God, Walter could just disappear. Tony wasn't the boss. Tony was just another middleman. Like, he doesn't, I don't, at least to my recollection, I think he was just, yeah, because he was the one that was middleman for Tanya and Dono, because he was like, yeah, my boss sent me that because Ren recommended you to like my boss or something like that. So I think he was just a middleman. So I don't know how much, whether their boss knows, because that's still another thread that could still be pulled out. Like, that organization could, once again, still come after Paige and Walter, or they could still end up being a part of this story, but we're kind of winding down some of those threads. Once again, that 15 million still at play, and now that Avery's dead, the only other person that has access to that is Paige. So she will forever have a target on her back, and could just be like, hey, more people come after her. Like I said, that also depends on just how much Tony reported back to the organization about, like, whether they already knew about Paige or whether he knew about Paige and hadn't quite reported to the organization. Because it's like, hey, I want to get you results first, not like, you know, just string you along by like, oh, it's this person. Have you done anything about it yet? No. Don't contact us until you've dealt with it and got our back our 15 mil. So we'll ultimately have, like I said, we'll have to wait and see how all of this ends up playing out going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.